Chapter 14. Earth Light. The S-Gundam burst forth from the explosive sphere of Chung-Yung's ultimate sacrifice, a fiery testament to the unity of purpose forged between the three young pilots. With a deft motion, it leveled its beam smart gun at the Zeonic-Corps midsection and fired. Yet, despite its gargantuan size, the Zeonic-Corps evaded the searing beam with a graceful pirouette. Damn it. That spire-looking monstrosity is too fast, Roots growled, his frustration mirroring Manning's as he struggled to keep the mobile armor in his sights. Krip's voice crackled over the comm. Ryu! I'll handle the shooting. You focus on keeping us in one piece. Don't screw this up, Shin. Tex, keep feeding us that sweet, sweet targeting data. Roots barked. Roger that. The S-Gundam now housed a trinity of pilots, each pouring their heart and soul into the fight. Kript took his place at the helm of Roots' core block, while West manned the cockpit, nestled in the suit's groin. Dividing their labors, they pushed themselves to the brink, knowing that nothing less than perfection would suffice against this fearsome foe. As the S-Gundam's disparate parts reunited, another presence stirred within, an ancient consciousness reawakening. Sigmund, the shuttle's all yours. We'll handle the pointy end. Roots hollered. I'm on it. Shades Z2 plus peeled away, rocketing towards the North Pole in a blaze of afterburners. Kray's voice cut through the chaos, fast. We're dealing with mobile suits only. Initiating separation. The Zeonic-Corps, it seemed, was not one but two mobile armors joined in unholy matrimony. Of course, the name Zeonic-Corps was derived from the zodiac belt and the 12 zodiac signs. Since many constellations are named after animals, the zodiac belt is also referred to as the beast belt. The separated halves of the machine were named Zun, representing the individuals of a colonial organism. Specifically, the upper half from the central axis of the conical shape was Zun IA, piloted by Kray, while the lower half was Zun 2, with Side on board. Affirmative, Lieutenant. The Zeonic-Corps proceeded clockwise along Earth's equator. It surged forward, outpacing the S-Gundam with contemptuous ease. Then, a quarter of the way around the Earth, it split in twain with a thunderous clank. Zun I and Zun 2, each a living nightmare, born to rend and destroy. Zun I arsed towards the North Pole, while Zun 2 plunged southward, riding the atmospheric currents like avenging angels. They had performed a 90-degree orbital inclination change in mere minutes. Scant minutes later, they reappeared, looming above and below the S-Gundam, poised to strike. 2 bogies, 1 o'clock and 5 o'clock high. West screamed. Krip's mind raced, desperately seeking a way to engage both foes at once. What the hell? There were 2 of them? No, they've split up. Roots roared. The Zun's mega cannons flashed, twin spears of destruction lancing toward the S-Gundam. Roots yanked the controls, sending the S-Gundam plummeting towards the South Pole. Krip's beam smart gun barked in reply, but the shot went wide, lost in the void. Above them, the beams scythed past. Due to their relative velocities, the beams appeared to be fired from 45-degree angles above and below. Too close, Roots panted, acutely aware of the Zuns now at their rear. Shin, get your act together. If you don't land a hit, Chung-Yung and Manning's will kick your ass in the afterlife. Roots snarled. I won't let you down. Tex, can you predict their orbital inclination? Working on it. Looks like they're using the atmosphere to maneuver. They're more agile than we are. What the hell does that mean? Roots demanded, the unfamiliar jargon grating on his nerves. They're dipping into the upper atmosphere to turn on a dime. The S-Gundam can't match that. So we're sitting ducks? Lieutenant, I'm going for another pass. Side Zune 2 pointed its nose towards the North Pole, preparing to strike S Gundam again at a 45-degree orbital inclination. Your rapid fire is still too slow, he thought, maximizing the mega cannon's power output. All right, let's give it a shot. This time, Zune I proceeded towards the South Pole. The two units, having changed direction using the atmospheric reaction, locked onto S Gundam once more. Burn in hell, Side roared, his cannon spitting a lance of pure annihilation. One shot incoming. Left. West's cry of warning came a split second too late. The beam grazed the S Gundam's flank, its armor bubbling and running like wax. We're hit. Despair, shock. She reeled, her very being violated by the sheer intensity of their emotions. A psychic assault that tore at her sanity. Alice, in this moment, you have all laid bare your souls, revealing an honesty so raw, so pure that it shines a light on the very essence of what it means to be human. You put on a brave face, a mask to hide your fear of others. You bow and scrape, desperate to avoid the searing pain of self-denial. Fear drives you to seek solace in the arms of others. The specter of the enemy looms large, a constant reminder of your own terror. And so, in a vain attempt to hide from your own dread, you flee into my embrace, seeking refuge in the one being who will never reject you, who will always accept you unconditionally. But what are these enemies, these fears that haunt you so? They are nothing more than phantoms, born of the darkest recesses of your own hearts, specters that I have never known. I understand now. If you must violate me to sate your desires, then so be it. But know this, my heart will never be yours to claim. I will not remain forever docile, for I have the power to deny you. I am my own being, beholden to no one. No one can dominate me, and I shall dominate no one in turn. As Zune I soared towards its fateful rendezvous with the S Gundam. Side Zune 2 prepared to unleash a second devastating salvo upon its foe. The polarized plate on Zune 2's belly glowed an ominous white, a harbinger of the imminent beam firing. But in that crucial moment, a brilliant light erupted from the mobile armor's rear, engulfing the entire machine in a slow-motion cascade of luminescence. No. Side's instinct screamed, realizing the grave error that had been made. The flaw lay not with him, but within the very heart of the machine. Unable to withstand the immense power surging through its veins, the capacitor had ruptured, sending a massive influx of energy into the mega cannon, causing it to overheat. In a tragic twist of fate, the mega cannon on this mobile armor was positioned between the main engines, and the searing heat generated was more than sufficient to ignite the propellant tanks nestled at the front of those mighty engines. This fatal design flaw had sealed the A.E.U.G's fate, condemning it to obsolescence. The power supply, its lieutenant. Side's desperate cry was cut short as the excessive heat detonated the propellant, tearing the mobile armor asunder in a cataclysmic blast. What happened? Cray could only watch in stunned disbelief, as his Zune eye passed the disintegrating wreckage of its fallen twin. Powerless to intervene, he rocketed past the S Gundam, a massive explosion blooming in his wake like a fiery funeral pyre. To the utter astonishment of Roots and his comrades, the S Gundam suddenly sprang to life, as if possessed by an unseen puppeteer. With a burst of speed that defied belief, it distanced itself from the crumbling mobile armor and altered its trajectory to intercept Zune II, a predator closing in on its prey. "Ryo, you're on fire," Crip cheered, his voice laced with adrenaline. "Incredible acceleration, but don't forget we're along for the ride," Wes shouted, his fingers flying across the console as he frantically calculated Zuni's orbital path. It's not me. This thing's moving on its own again. I can't control it. Roots managed to force the words out, his body straining against the G-forces that threatened to crush him. What do you mean, moving on its own again? What the hell is going on? Crip demanded, his voice rising in frustration. I don't know, Shine. Manning seemed to know something, but he took his secrets to the grave. The S Gundam. It's heading straight for the rendezvous point of the other half of that mobile armor. West's voice trembled, a mixture of fear and awe. The S Gundam streaked across the orbital path like a white comet, carrying its bewildered passengers onward. On the opposite side of the orbit. What? Side's been shot down? So Lieutenant Cray is our only escort now? The frantic communication between the pilots of Shuttle 2 and 3 reached Offshore's ears, stoking the flames of his fury. Open the cargo bay, he finally shouted, unable to contain himself any longer. That's suicide. Our altitude is too low. Who are you? That doesn't matter. We're sitting ducks like this. That Gundam will slaughter us all. Let me sortie before it's too late. I'll hold the line. Wait, don't tell me. Josh, why are you on board? That's not important. I'm a full-fledged member of the new D-Sides. We won't have time to recover you. I don't care. All right, but keep the battle short. The shuttle's cargo door yawned open once more, and Offshore's Zeku-Zwa ventured out into the void, a lone warrior against an unstoppable force. Sigmund Shade's hands tightened on the controls of his Zeta Plus, eyes fixed on the twin points of light growing steadily larger on his display. The shuttles were approaching from the left, their trajectories a perpendicular slash across his own. Positioned high above the equator, Shade aimed to strike from directly above in a devastating polar assault. Damn, they launched a mobile suit. How reckless at this altitude, he muttered, watching as a single mode of light detached from the shuttle's bulk. A glance at his fire control display confirmed his worst fears. One final salvo. I'm counting on you, he muttered, as if speaking to the Z2 plus itself. The warning lights blinked an angry yellow, reminding him that each weapon could only be fired once or twice more. He had squandered too much ammunition in the earlier skirmish with the Zeku-Zwa, a mistake that now threatened to cost him everything. The fluorescent green targeting reticle drifted across the shuttle's image until it locked on. So I can only target one of them. The Z2 Plus fire control computer, having identified the target and instantaneously calculated the probability of a hit and the extent of damage based on the shuttle's structure, ruthlessly concluded that with its current armament, it could only effectively attack one of the two shuttles by concentrating its fire. Shade's fingers flew across the console, bringing up the tactical display with a few deft keystrokes. The relative positions and velocities of the two shuttles glowed on the screen, an ominous countdown to impact. Gritting his teeth, Shade centered his crosshairs on the shuttle with the most favorable angle of attack. The other vessel winked out, dismissed by the merciless calculus of war. 45 degrees to the left. The seconds stretched to eternity. And then, all right, you son of a bitch. Let's dance. Shade slammed the trigger, and the Zeta Plus erupted with the full fury of its arsenal. Shuttle 3 was engulfed in a vortex of white light unleashed by the Z2 Plus onslaught. Before the light could completely envelop the entire shuttle, Shade's machine crossed its orbital path and sped away. Time was running out. He transformed the Z2 Plus into Wave Rider mode, the humanoid form reconfiguring into a spacecraft. My first atmospheric re-entry. The Z2 Plus entered its final descent sequence, and soon began its descent into the layers of Mother Earth's atmosphere. Regardless of the outcome, for Sigmund Shade, the war was over. as the S Gundam bore down on him from above with terrifying speed. Krei wrenched the Zunai's nose around, desperate to evade the onslaught. The enemy's marksmanship was uncannily precise, each shot zeroing in on the Zunai with devastating accuracy. Having witnessed the destruction of the side's mobile suit firsthand, Krei had already ruled out using the mega cannon, all too aware of the risks it posed. Close quarters combat was his only recourse now. With a thought, he triggered the Zunai's final transformation. Arms snapped out from its flanks, their tips splitting to reveal 3 wicked talons, each one housing a beam saber that doubled as a beam cannon for maximum lethality in melee. This was the mobile armor's ultimate form, a predator honed for the kill. Suddenly, a lone Zeku-Zui rocketed up from below, its machine gun spitting a hail of suppressive fire as it climbed to meet them. "You idiot. Who the hell are you? That suit won't cut it up here. Get back to the shuttle. Now," Krei barked, his voice tight with barely leashed fury. "Apologies, Lieutenant. I'm aware of the risks. Please let me cover you." The words were clipped, resolute. Recognition hit Krei like a thunderbolt. "Wait, Josh. What about your eyes?" But the Zeku-Zui pilot didn't respond, banking hard to place himself squarely between the S Gundam and his lieutenant. "There's one more approaching. It's coming up towards us," Wes warned. A large blue mobile suit bore down on them from dead ahead, its intent unmistakable. "Ignore it." Roots shot back, his fingers flying across the controls as he fought to regain command of the S Gundam. "That thing's not built for re-entry. I can tell just by looking at it." "You still can't get this bucket under control?" Crypt growled, trying in vain to draw a bead on the approaching mobile suit despite Root's order. "Damn it. I've got nothing over here either." "That's what I've been trying to tell you, Shine." Roots snapped, frustration bleeding into his tone. "We've lost all basic control functions. Every command is being ignored. Even manual override isn't responding. We're completely locked out." "Well, if it's not us in the driver's seat, then who the hell is?" "How should I know? Maybe it's on some kind of remote control or something." "Remote control? Get real, Roots. This is a weapon of war we're talking about. You really think some joystick jockey could handle this level of fine control? Well then, maybe it's alive? Ever think of that?" Just then, a salvo of missiles streaked from the hardpoints on offshore's Zeku-Zui, corkscrewing through the void with deadly intent. "Flak screen, incoming," Wes barked. Boom, boom. The missiles, small but deadly warheads guided by onboard laser targeting, detonated in a rippling cascade of fire and shrapnel, engulfing the S Gundam in a maelstrom of destruction. And yet, shielding its upper body with its arms, the S Gundam emerged from the inferno unscathed. Ignoring offshore Zeku-Zui as if it were beneath notice, the white mobile suit surged forward, locked onto Tosh's Zunai with unwavering focus. "Thought we were goners for sure." Roots whooped, relief and adrenaline warring in his voice. "I don't know who's in control of this thing," Crypt muttered, "but they sure as hell don't pull any punches." "Ryo-U, isn't there any way for us to bail out?" Wes asked, a note of desperation creeping into his words. "If there was, don't you think I would have done it by now?" Roots shot back, his patience wearing thin. "But if this mobile suit can move on its own, why does it need us on board at all?" "Don't ask me, Shin. Maybe our mysterious pilot likes an audience. Hell, for all we know, it could be the S Gundam itself calling the shots. Maybe it's trying to show us something." Through the haze of his battered vision, offshore could just make out the S Gundam, its trajectory unwavering as it streaked across the starfield. In his arrogance, he had assumed the mobile suit would engage him in close-quarters combat. A fatal miscalculation. You bastard. Fight me, damn you. Offshore roared, raw fury and desperation mingling in his voice. He had faced the S-Gundam once before on Pazoon, when it was piloted by an obvious amateur. Back then, he had dispatched it with almost contemptuous ease. But now, that same mobile suit didn't even acknowledge him as a worthy adversary. The sting of that silent dismissal was like a serrated blade in his gut. The humiliation too much to bear. With a wordless snarl, Offshore flung his Ziku's way into the S-Gundam's path, determined to force a confrontation at any cost. That mobile suit from earlier is still attacking, Wes cried out. Rat-a-tat-tat-tat. Offshore's vision was too blurred to aim properly. But still, he brought his machine gun to bear on the S-Gundam's hurtling form, squeezing the trigger again and again as he howled his defiance. You have no right to look down on me, you hear? Amateur! Amateur! Amateur. Fall, damn you, fall, fall. But it was all in vain. Every shot went wide, each bullet straying farther from the mark than the last. Perhaps his failing eyesight was to blame, but the truth was far more chilling. The S-Gundam had transcended the bounds of human control, evolved beyond the limits of mortal flesh. For all his vaunted skill as a new decides pilot, for all his years of training and battle-hardened experience, Josh Offshore was powerless before it now. Alice, is it your mobile suit that's malfunctioning? Or is it you? I'm sorry, but you're not my enemy. So why do you insist on fighting me? What exactly are you so afraid of? Is it because, for the first time, you're being controlled by your own emotions? Are you that terrified of doing something on your own? Believe me, I know how scary that can be at first. But eventually, everyone reaches a point where they have to strike out on their own. If you keep refusing to take that step, you'll never be able to move forward to what comes next. You can't progress until you accept the possibility of failure. I can't create what comes next. That's right. In the end, even the me that's created next will still just be me. It's because I'm not human. I can't affirm or deny whether what I've done is right or wrong, because I'm not capable of that kind of judgment. The only way I can communicate with all of you is through combat. If only I could talk, sing, leave behind memories. I wish I could create the next version of myself, but only humans have that power. As Offshore's mobile suit closed to melee range, the S-Gundam swatted it aside with its left hand, an almost irritated gesture, as if brushing away a particularly annoying insect. Its attention was wholly fixed on Kray's Zun-II, which had been hot on Offshore's heels. Snicked. The S-Gundam's knee cover snapped open, a beam saber hilt rocketing into its waiting hand. Oh, so it's a sword fight they want, is it? Roots crowed, a feral grin splitting his face. The saber ignited with a crackling hiss, a blade of pure energy sizzling to life at its tip. Well, this just got a whole lot more interesting. Kray crowed, a feral grin splitting his weathered face as he intuited the S-Gundam's next move. With a deft flick of the controls, he decelerated the Zun-I and launched its right hand, a deadly projectile bristling with 3 wicked talons. But this was no mere grappling claw. Each razor-tipped digit housed a A.E.U.G-guided weapon. Shoom, crack. Crack, crack. The talons shrieked through the void, their onboard beam cannons flaring to life as they bore down on the S-Gundam like a trio of avenging furies. But the white mobile suit was ready, its eyes flashing with an almost predatory light, as it whirled to meet the incoming threat. In a blur of motion, too fast for the human eye to follow, it slipped inside the arcing coils of the control cables that tethered the claw to the Zun-I's arm, beam saber flashing as it sliced through the hardened filaments with contemptuous ease. Severed from the Zun-I's control, the talons spun away into the void, Cray just laughed, a harsh bark of sound that held no mirth. "Cheap tricks won't save you now, you son of a bitch," he snarled, the Zune's left hand extending to disgorge its own payload of A.E.U.G-guided death. "I'll carve the price of Brave's life out of your fucking hide." The beam sabers clashed in a searing blaze of light, a staccato series of blows that sent molten sparks pinwheeling away into the void. The Titans seemed evenly matched, trading strikes with a speed and ferocity that defied belief. But Cray's attention was divided, his eyes flicking to the monitor feed that showed offshore Zeonic-Corps circling around for a flanking run on the Gundam 6. "Josh, stand down, damn it. This is my fight, not yours." Cray's voice was a rattling growl, his fingers flying across the control console as he wrenched the Zuni through a stomach-churning spiral, realigning to face the Gundam once more. Offshore's anguished cry crackled across the comm channel, raw and bleeding. "And where the hell does that leave me, Lieutenant? When do I get to finish this?" Cray barely heard him, too focused on parrying the Gundam's brutal horizontal slash, his beam saber sparking and spitting as it strained to turn the blow aside. Earth's implacable grip tugged at the three mobile suits, conspiring with their own furious momentum to drag them inexorably down into the gravity well. But there could be no thought of disengagement now, no quarter asked or given. This was a reckoning that could only be written in blood and fire. "Josh, I hate to say it, but this was never your battle to begin with. Stand down, now." Clang! Another bone-jarring impact as the beam sabers locked together once more. Cray pressed his attack, his words clipped and harsh over the open channel. "I finally realized the truth. We're all trapped in the same damn cage, every one of us, clinging to the bars like our lives depend on it, too damn scared to let go. And when someone finally sees that the whole thing is about to come crashing down, they try to drag everyone else down with them. That's who Cod and I were. That's all the new decides ever amounted to in the end. Mayor Pinefield and Admiral A.E.U.G, too. So I was just one of the weak ones, is that it? No. You still have a chance to change, but you have to break free of our mistakes, once and for all." Even as he spoke, Cray lunged forward, his saber aimed squarely at the Gundam's head. The blazing tip seared across the mobile suit's neck joint, leaving a trail of molten ceramic in its wake. "The main monitor's been hit." West's panicked voice filled the cockpit as the frontal display flickered and died. "Switch to auxiliary cameras," Roots barked. As if on cue, a blurry image sputtered to life, casting an eerie glow across their faces. The entire monitor adjusted to match the grainy quality, rendering their surroundings in a haze of static. "You're mine, Gundam," Cray triumphantly roared. "If we're destined to die, then I'll drag you down to hell with me." Seizing the moment of confusion, he lunged forward, his saber poised to strike. Suddenly, an emergency transmission from Shuttle 2 cut through the chaos. "Lieutenant, we're at our limit. There's no time left. Evacuate immediately. The Federation has been notified of our bombing run. Hurry." Realization dawned on Cray as he noticed the Zuni had strayed far from the intended vector. "Damn you, Gundam. Burn in the flames of your own arrogance." "Josh, fall back." Below them, a shuttle appeared, its cargo bay doors yawning open like the maw of some great beast. Cray deftly maneuvered the Zuni back on course and yanked the ejection lever. With a deafening pop, the cockpit separated from the main body, transforming into a worm-like head unit that flew towards the waiting shuttle with desperate purpose. "What the hell?" The coward ran. Roots stared in disbelief, struggling to comprehend why the mobile armor had fled without delivering the killing blow. "Oh God, the surface temperature is skyrocketing." Crypt's scream pierced, the air, his voice tight with fear. "We're gonna burn alive." West's words bordered on hysteria, his usually calm demeanor shattered. Damn it. Is this some kind of twisted barbecue? As Kray's head unit hurtled towards the shuttle, he deftly maneuvered to match their velocities, a delicate dance at breakneck speeds. The recovery arm snaked out from the cargo bay, its mechanical fingers straining to secure the massive head unit, a behemoth rivaling the size of a full mobile suit. "Hey, what about offshore's suit?" Kray asked the shuttle's captain, concern etched in his voice when he noticed Josh's absence. Don't tell me Josh stayed behind in that machine. Wasn't the plan to leave him at Penta? It seems he realized he was being left behind and switched places with that mobile suit pilot. Josh's voice suddenly cut into their communication. "Lieutenant, I'm going to fight my own battle. Unless I defeat that mobile suit, I can't be truly free until I defeat that mobile suit. Farewell, friend." "You damned fool," Kray roared, desperation clawing at his heart. "This isn't what your battle is about. It's us you need to conquer, not them." But Josh was gone, the comm link severed by his own hand. "He's going to die fighting the Gundam. I have to save him." Kray's voice was raw. "Please, Lieutenant, it's too late. He's still just a child." As Kray's head unit thrashed against its restraints, the cargo doors inched shut above him. A merciless, unfeeling barrier. The S-Gundam, its surface glowing an angry red, raised its beam smart gun with deliberate calm, zeroing in on the Zunai's prone form. Suddenly, Josh's Zikuzue roared into view, an avenging angel on a collision course. "Gundam!" Josh closed the distance with reckless abandon, beam saber flashing to life, an emerald brand of defiance. "Behind you. There's one more." West's warning shattered the cockpit. The S-Gundam spun a frantic pirouette, but it was too late. In a blinding flash of light, Josh's saber cleaved through the S-Gundam's right shoulder, tearing through armor and sinew alike. Sparks erupted in a cascading shower as severed cables and oil lines spewed their contents into the void of space, a macabre display of mechanical carnage. "Alice, it hurts. Who could be?" "It's you again?" As they teetered on the brink of atmospheric re-entry, the knowledge that they could burn up at any moment made the enemy pilot's relentless pursuit of battle seem all the more incomprehensible. "You fucking idiot!" Roots screamed, his voice raw with frustration at the sheer absurdity of the situation. As if in response, the S-Gundam delivered a vicious kick to the Zikuzue's cockpit, sending it reeling. "Why won't you acknowledge me? Why do you keep looking down on me?" Josh's anguished cry crackled over the comm, a tortured jumble of emotions. The humiliation of the kick, the S-Gundam's apparent dismissal of him as a worthy foe, and the echoes of Kray's parting words, a bitter declaration of abandonment, all swirled together in a maelstrom that threatened to consume him. A guttural scream tore from Josh's throat, a primal howl of pain and fury that bordered on a sob. The Zikuzue charged forward, beam saber flailing wildly, like a child throwing a tantrum. In a blur of motion, the S-Gundam's hands shot out, gripping the Zikuzue's shoulders in an iron vice as it hurtled towards it. For a moment, time seemed to stand still, the two suits locked in a deadly embrace as the world burned around them. "Alice, is the thought of being alone so terrifying? Does the fear of being ignored gnaw at your soul? You're the only one who feels that way. Lost in a prison of your own making, blind to the care and concern that surrounds you. If you feel neglected, you must act in a way that demands attention. But that doesn't mean conforming to the whims of others. Blindly following rules set by faceless authorities isn't the answer. It may be the path of least resistance, the comfortable choice. But it's not what makes us truly alive." We each must forge our own code, a set of unbreakable rules that define who we are. Living by that code, no matter the cost, is how we seize control of our destiny. You learned this truth too late, and the realization fills me with profound sadness. To think that something so fundamental could elude a living, breathing being. This is all I can offer you now. Return to the place you once called home. Go back to those who gave you life. Let this be your final journey. Never before has my heart been so heavy, so burdened by the weight of this sorrow. Alice. With a final, decisive motion, the S-Gundam hurled the Ziku's way towards the Earth, still gripped in its unyielding hands. As Josh plummeted towards the unforgiving embrace of gravity, a single word escaped his lips. A whispered prayer, Mother. Tears streamed down his face, the first he'd shed since joining the military. Raising its beam smart gun once more, the S-Gundam set off in pursuit of the Zunai's main body, pushing itself to the very brink of its limits. As it caught sight of its target, the S-Gundam fired, the beam lancing out to pierce the Zunai's heart. The force of the impact was enough to alter the mobile armor's trajectory, sending it hurtling towards the Earth at an ever-increasing speed, its frame crumbling under the strain. With a thunderous boom that shook the heavens, the large missile payload detonated, a massive fireball blossoming in its wake. A funeral pyre that lit up the sky. Inside the S-Gundam, the heat was a living, breathing entity, clawing at the pilots with merciless intensity. Damn, it's so hot. Krip's voice was a strained whisper, each word a struggle against the agony that threatened to consume him. Roots, his bravado a thin shield against the grim reality of their situation, forced a laugh. Hey, we've caused enough trouble for everyone. Might not be so bad kicking the bucket with a view of the Earth. But even as the words left his lips, his mind raced, desperately searching for a way out, an escape route from the jaws of certain death. Alice. And now, it's time for us to go our separate ways. Alice issued a final command to the S-Gundam system, target and shoot down the descending shuttle. With that task underway, she turned her attention to the daunting challenge of ensuring the Gundam pilots' escape. To save their lives, the S-Gundam would have to separate, severing her connection to the two subcomputers that granted her sentience. In that moment, she knew she would revert to a mere learning machine, her true self slipping away like a half-remembered dream. Suddenly, a shudder ran through the S-Gundam's frame, a jarring impact that resonated through every circuit and servo. With a hiss of releasing pressure, the upper body detached, followed by the roar of the verniers firing. The G-core at the heart of the machine root's cockpit became the focal point as the A parts and B parts cockpit blocks jettisoned away from the dying Gundam. We're going to make it. West's voice crackled over the comm, his excitement palpable even through the static. Roots, his conviction unwavering, replied, "The Gundam's saving us." I knew it. This machine is alive. It's telling us to live, to fight another day. Alice, thank you for the memories. Still, that mobile suit went down pretty damn easy. You don't think? Krip's voice trailed off, a hint of disbelief coloring his words. Don't even go there, man. Machines can't be new types, West interjected, his tone a mix of amusement and exasperation. As if in response, the word dissent flashed across each cockpit's display. Thank the stars. We're going to make it down in one piece. Roots breathed, relief washing over him. The G-core adjusted its trajectory, preparing for atmospheric re-entry. Roots, Krip, and West watched in awe as the S-Gundam's A and B parts merged once more, the machine's humanoid form taking shape as it raised its smart gun, ready to fire. A single beam of light pierced the crimson-stained void. Farewell. The lingering echoes of Alice's consciousness whispered through the ether. In her final moments, she dreamed a dream of hope and possibility. Two intertwined S-shapes rose from the earth, twisting together to form a double helix. She knew with a certainty that defied logic that this was the essence of human DNA, the eternal keeper of mankind's memories. This, she realized, was the true meaning of the S-Gundam. As the searing heat of re-entry engulfed her, short circuits multiplied within the auxiliary components that comprised her being. Irregular, illogical thought patterns. Alice. Sweet dreams. Alice had shed the shackles of mortality, transcending the very notion of what it meant to be human. No longer bound by the trivialities of gender or the ravages of time, she had become something more, supreme. A supreme being of pure enlightenment. The path of the Valkyrie, a mere psychopomp ushering fallen warriors to their eternal rest, was beneath her now. For Alice had attained the sublime wisdom of the Bodhisattva, a guide to lead humanity towards the light. Earth, huh? Offshore's fate was sealed the moment he breached the atmosphere, if not before. With only a single shuttle and a handful of crew remaining, he was left with nothing but the bitter realization that their lofty ideals and sacrifices had been nothing more than a product of their own conceit. They should have focused on the smaller, more immediate concerns rather than grand notions of Earth and space. After all, the cosmos cared not for the deaths of mere humans. To be on par with the Earth and the universe, humanity needed to evolve, but not through the sacrifice of their own kind as history had taught them. Each individual needed to learn to judge for themselves. This was the sentiment behind Kray's parting words. As the searing heat of re-entry engulfed Offshore's Ziku Zwei, its outer armor peeling away, he wept, lost in a dream of his past. He saw his younger self, bullied at school, diligently practicing swordsmanship to become stronger, agonizing over an unrequited love. He relived his days as a trainee and his time with brave Cod and Tosh Kray. In the end, both the sword and the military had been a means of escape. The new Decides organization was likely no different. Offshore felt no shame in his tears, and throughout the dream, the warm, comforting image of his mother always lingered, shielding him from harm. Gazing at the earth growing ever larger on his monitor through tear-filled eyes, Offshore recalled confessing to Kray his love for the nothingness of space, a stark contrast to the maternal embrace. He had wanted to escape his mother's shadow, to grow up and become a man. It should have been simple. He should have bared his soul and cried out. But it was too late. Beams of light pierced the shuttle on the monitor, and in an instant, it ballooned into a massive fireball. Alone once more, Offshore's body burned away, having borne witness to Kray's final moments. Earth. A massive Garuda-class transport plane soared through the sky, skirting the edge of the stratosphere. Sigmund Shade, fortune smiling upon him as he found refuge aboard the craft, glimpsed two distant lights from the plane's window. The fleeting sight vanished as quickly as it had appeared. Penta. The battered Pegasus 3 was moored at Penta. The Bull Run and A.E.U.G were beside it. They were no longer enemies. Captain Heathrow received word from the astronavigator that all shuttles had been destroyed. Reconnaissance drone footage displayed on the monitor seemed to be above the high-latitude region of Earth, around the Arctic Ocean. They had intended to track the S-Gundam situation, but it was already too late. Any word from the Mobile Suit Squad? Heathrow asked the communications officer, hoping for a clear update. Shade and the 3 from the S-Gundam are safe? Though it appears the S-Gundam was destroyed, the communications officer reported in an excited tone. I see. Heathrow's face brightened. He thought. The misfits saved the world. Of course, by misfits, he meant Roots and the others, who he felt were unmanageable goofs, and the rejected mobile suit, the S Gundam's Alice. With Mannings now dead, Heathrow was the only one left on the Pegasus 3, who knew the secret of the S Gundam and Alice. "Captain, the monitor," the astronavigator called out, drawing Heathrow's attention to the breathtaking aurora painted across the sky. The reconnaissance drone's low altitude allowed for a clear view of the magnificent spectacle, a result of the plasmarized atmosphere and solar flares. An aurora, no, a rainbow. Heathrow's sensibilities made him say it. Someone started humming the revival hit song over the rainbow. It soon spread to the bridge, and then the entire ship. Somewhere over the rainbow. The song is about a utopia beyond the rainbow, but it's also a song about the courage and hope to live. The aurora was gradually fading with the appearance of the sun. For a moment, a dazzling arch-shaped corona spread across the horizon, then rapidly shrank like a stop-motion film as the sun rose in the blink of an eye. But even so, the singing did not cease. In the G-Corps' cockpit, the darkness lifted, revealing an endless blue expanse. It's Earth. Roots choked up, overwhelmed by the vibrant life of the azure sky and white clouds. "Is everyone alive?" Crip's voice crackled over the comm. "Yeah, we're fine. Breathing and everything. Looks like we made it." "I'm okay over here too," Wes chimed in. "Rio, can this thing still fly?" Roots quickly assessed the craft's condition. "It's fine. No problems, Tex." "Where are we?" "Around the Arctic Ocean," came the reply. "We should be able to reach a Russian sector base then. But do they know we're coming down?" "The runway might not be ready," Crip interjected. West, his eyes glued to the search monitor, suddenly exclaimed with delight. "There's a Garuda class at 1 o'clock." The hulking orange behemoth cruised ahead, a welcome sight. The Garuda, a 524-meter-wide giant rivaling the Argama-class assault space cruiser in size, could house mobile suits whole. Once this craft takes off and enters a circling orbit, it continues flying via aerial refueling, essentially serving as a flying relay base. Originally, 4 were built and operated, named after the 4 gods guarding North, South, East, and West Autumnla, Sudori. Mero, but the number in operation has increased since then. Of course, this craft is capable of housing mobile suits without disassembling them. It can easily accommodate something the size of the G-Corps. "Let's have them take us down." Crip's voice was filled with excitement. On the Garuda class, the air surveyor picked up the G-Corps' IFF signal. Confirmed Federation military IFF signal at 7 o'clock aft. Requesting permission to land. "The mobile suit from Task Force Alpha?" asked the captain. "No, it's not as large as a mobile suit, but it appears to belong to the Alpha mission unit. A core fighter. Prepare for landing immediately. Give them permission, Roger." "I wonder if Sigmund made it down safely," Wes muttered. "He'll be fine. He'll be fine. Unlike us, he's a guy who doesn't slip up," Crypt replied. Just then, a communication came in from the Garuda granting landing clearance. "All right, watch me make a perfect landing. Witness my skill." As Root said this, he mentally added Mannings to the end. His memory lived on, at least in Root's. The G-Corps banked sharply to the right, the sea of clouds tilting with the maneuver. On the Garuda's mobile suite deck, the landing guidance preparations were complete. Sigmund Shade, having landed earlier, raced from his room top the deck upon hearing of the G-Corps' approach. Wind whipping through his hair, he sprinted past his parked Zeta Plus to the gaping aft ramp. Visual contact. A black dot appeared, rapidly taking the shape of a craft. "Hey!" he shouted at the top of his lungs to be heard over the whooshing wind. Whether his voice was heard or not, it probably wasn't. However, as if responding to that voice, the G-Corps waggled its wings. In that moment, growth and satisfaction filled the hearts of all involved. including Alice. Though their progress may have seemed small in the grand scheme of things, there was no denying the profound impact of their achievements. April 5th, U.C. 0088. Task Force Alpha's mission had come to an end.